Welcome to everyone who's joining us for WOPN Wine Wednesday. It is our final Wine Wednesday to talk about the wine case that all of you have purchased and have been enjoying with us along the way. We'll wait just a couple minutes because we still have some folks joining us. As a reminder, we are recording the session. So for anyone who either wants to go back and hear the conversation, or maybe you have friends who were not able to join, you can taste and enjoy WOPN Wine Month on your time. That's what this year is all about. So we'll get going here in just a moment. All right.
What do you think, Stacey? No harm in folks opening their bubbles, though, huh?
Absolutely not, David. Do you want to? Yeah, let's go ahead and get those bubbles opened.
Too late.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers. Done.
and waiting for that Coravin sparkling version to be released.
I can't wait.
It's right there, but I can't show it to you. Right there.
All right, it looks like our attendees, it looks like everyone that I believe is going to join to start is here. I have no more attendees joining us. So I want to go ahead and officially welcome everyone. Again, welcome to WOPN Wine Month. It is the, well, it's not quite the final Wednesday, but it's the fourth Wednesday of March, and we are really excited to bring you the fourth in a very awesome series of the first ever curated WOPN wine case. This is the final three wines, which I think we were just kind of awing about. We're kicking off with bubbles tonight. So we're going to get to the wine and go ahead and open your wines and enjoy. But we've got a couple new surprises. If you haven't joined us in the last couple weeks, I am really honored to have Peter Johnson, who is the winery director of Coravin, with us. Peter, do you want to talk a little bit about what you guys have happening here?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. We're thrilled to be part of your event. We're going to choose two winners from tonight's viewing who are going to win a Coravin system. And you can't win if you don't watch. So we're going to make that announcement at the very end of the program. And that's how we'll notify who the winners are. We also have a special promo code that I want to mention. It is WOPN21. It is good for 15% off of anything you want to buy at coravin.com, a brand new pivot system, which just recently came out, or any of our timeless needle products. It's good through March 31st. So you're going to get a whole week to be able to use that. I'll walk through and do a quick product demo for anyone not familiar with the Coravin. It removes wine from a bottle without removing the cork. And I need a needle in the system in which to do that. So just realized I didn't have one. So I'll pull one out of my trusty kit. It's super easy to change needles. We make them in 3 different sizes. A vintage needle, good for bottles of wine that are 20 years old or older. A faster pour needle, if you're a little bit impatient, pours about 40% faster than a standard needle. And in this one, I have the standard needle. So I'm going to demo the Model 3 system. You'll see the other hosts on the show using the pivot this evening, but I just place it on top. We have an all new smart clamp system that automatically spreads and mounts on top of the bottle. So it's super easy to use. I tip it up 45 degrees. I pressurize. I pour the amount of wine I desire. Whenever I'm done, I tip back. I remove the system and the cork reseals. So these wines using our timeless needle product are good for, I'm comfortable saying 18 years because that's how long we've been playing around with the prototype here at Coravin. With the pivot, which requires you to pull the cork and put in a stopper, which is great for anything under screw cap or even a synthetic cork. The wines are good for 30 days. You just pop the top, slide the stud down through the top, and enjoy your wines.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Peter. I know a few of you have just joined. So we just want to also remind you that we are going to be doing a random drawing tonight. For those of us who are stay live throughout the entire session, we'll be giving away 2 of the Coravin pivot systems. So I will be, somebody was asking what the code is. I'm going to be putting that in the chat. I'm just finalizing it right now. But without further ado, I'd like to keep us moving in our conversation tonight because we've got a lot of fun things to get to. It is really my honor and pleasure. David, it's been such a really fun WOPN Wine Month. I want to introduce everyone to David Glancy, our Master Sommelier and Certified Wine Educator, and the founder of San Francisco Wine School. I have to say, David, we really could not have done this without you. So thank you so much for lending us your expertise, your time, and of course, your knowledge, because it's really been a super fun month. And without further ado, David, take it away.
Sure, thank you. It's been a pleasure doing these sessions with you, after being one of the keynotes for the last 3 years in person. And the last time I traveled really was at WOPN. So it's great to get a fix of WOPN remotely. So thank you. And I want to take the moment now to introduce our panelists. My first time working with Regine Rousseau. We'll talk about her in a moment, and Josh Orr, who I've known from lots of places our paths have crossed. But this is kind of fun because in the last 3 sessions, it's been 3 different winemakers joining. And this time it's sommeliers. So totally different approach. So like Clark Kent, I just have to expose I too am a somm. So anyway, but back up and let's move on and move the next slides and introduce our folks. Josh Orr is a fellow MS. I'm not going to read his bio like I've done with other folks, but he is the class of 2019 and won lots of awards here and has other credentials, including sake certification. But Josh, can you tell us what you do for Broadbent Selections, what Broadbent Selections is?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and it's an honor to be a part of this panel and get to enjoy some tasty wines with yourself and Regine and Peter as well. And so I work, as David said, for Broadbent Selections. Broadbent Selections is a wine importer, and I wouldn't say we necessarily specialize in a certain area. Our owner is Bartholomew Broadbent. He is the son of a famous master of wine, Michael Broadbent, who's famous for Christie's wine auctions and any number of other things. And so Bartholomew has some serious pedigree, and his whole thing when he started Broadbent was, I want to find wineries with good people that I want to work with, and also that are the best in their region. And so he's kind of gone about that. And we have wines from South Africa. We have wines from Chile and Argentina. We have the famed Chateau Moussard from Lebanon. So it's a very diverse book. And when you're looking at that from a sommelier's perspective, that's amazing, because my curiosity knows no bounds when I'm taking Broadbent stuff out. And so that's what we do. And yeah, once again, happy to be here.
Awesome. And Regine, my first time working with you, and it's great. I'm excited about that, especially since you and I were fellow nominees for the Wine Enthusiast Star Awards, Educator of the Year, first ever that they had that category. And you and I were up there and then beaten by Christy Norman. Oh, well, Christy's
I feel like a winner. I feel like a winner. David and Josh, it's so awesome to hang out with you. When I got the invitation and I was told I get to drink with you two, I was like, yes, this is going to be a great night. And then they added Peter to the mix, and I thought, you know what, pinch me. So my company, for those who don't know, is Shall We Wine. We are a wine and spirits experiential marketing company. So what we do is we help brands grow their reach. We do that through television, through video, through events. So again, you can read my bio. I'm just super excited to be here and, just drink some wine. So thank you.
And I love part of your mission is taking the complex subject of wine and making it approachable to everyone. And that's a big part of my mission as well. So nice to have you here. So jumping into it, I'm going to just set the table, and then Josh and Regine are going to jump in here and there, especially as we get to the wines, but they'll correct all the lies that I tell because I'm notorious for that. But first of all, I wanted to get to the slide I've used 4 weeks in a row, though. Andrei Chelychev, famed Russian wine consultant in the Napa Valley, influential 60s, 70s, 80s, and continuing. But this quote, he said, "God made Cabernet Sauvignon and the devil made Pinot Noir." If you've been with us the last 3 weeks, apologies for the repetition, but for anyone who's new, he wasn't saying that Pinot Noir was bad. World of Pinot would not allow me to have that slide. Basically, he's saying that Cabernet is just kind of easy, but Pinot Noir is difficult to grow, difficult to craft into wine. It has a smaller range of temperatures it tolerates. There's so many difficulties with it. Miles was not completely wrong in Sideways. It's kind of a finicky grape, but it's a wonderful thing, and we celebrate it. Let's move on. So Pinot Noir around the world, it is produced in many, many countries. Some of these are no surprise. And today we're highlighting France and Germany, the #1 and 3 producers by volume in the world for Pinot Noir. And I think that Germany being #3 is probably a surprise for many people. That US is up there, great. We've had US wines in our 3 prior sessions. And probably if you get down the list to #8 and see that Moldova is in the top 10, that's probably a pretty big surprise for you as well. Let's move on. So preferred climate, I always talk about Vitis vinifera, the fine wine species of grapes. Thrives in the temperate zones, not near the equator, not near the poles. That is roughly 30 to 50 degrees latitude in either the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere. As I said, Pinot's a little more finicky, and so instead of 30 to 50, 34 to 48 is where most Pinot Noir is. There are exceptions, and frankly, we could shrink that in a little bit as well. But it likes moderate to cool zones. And, in warmer places, looking at Australia, looking at California, in warmer places, it clings to the coast where it's a little bit cooler, just like its cousin Chardonnay. And let's move on. So here are the latitudes for for all 12 wines from the WOPN case of wine that you all have been enjoying. And now we're on the last 3, and we've got those boxed in the top right, the old world examples here. And this is kind of fun because these are definitely in that cold portion. I said 30 to 50 for Vitis vinifera and 34 to 48 for Pinot, but we are 47 to 50 and a half. So we are outside of the normally recognized climate for Vitis vinifera and certainly for red grapes. So we'll have to look into why Durnau, which is in the center of the R in Germany, why that works for Pinot Noir. But latitude isn't the only story. I've oversimplified. All right, so want to look at longitude. Longitude doesn't matter at all. It's actually proximity to any cooling influence or warming influence. So I looked at bodies of water. None of these regions are particularly close to any water. Champagne is the most exposed. It's 150 miles away. That's pretty damn far away, but it's from the English Channel. It is cold, wet influence coming down. They also get risk of frost, lots of different issues there, but there are no mountains blocking Champagne from that English Channel influence. If we look to the R, you could see in the middle picture here, the R is certainly well north of Champagne, and it is further from the water, but it's not the English Channel, it's the North Sea we're talking about now, but it is sheltered somewhat by the Eifel Mountains, which lie in between Germany and Belgium. So a little blocked here. Then we get to Beaune, so back to France, but dropping down into Burgundy well below Champagne, 300 miles to the English Channel, and frankly, 300 miles due west to the Atlantic Ocean as well. It's slightly blocked by the slopes of the Côte d'Or and the forests over the top and on the other side, but it's pretty damn exposed. Rain and frost and hail are big issues in Burgundy. And let's move on. Temperatures. Now, I should have said these are average summer temperatures. These are the growing season temperatures. We're looking pretty damn close if you look at these three. And it's kind of fun to look at Burgundy and go, that's the warm place in our flight. So Champagne and R, very similar, low 50s to mid 60s. Beaune in the heart of Burgundy, getting roughly 60 to 77 or 59 to 77. So slightly warmer, but this is not Lodi, folks. All right. No knocks against Lodi. And then we look at rain, 30 inches to 36 inches a year. That's a really moderate amount of rainfall. There are certainly wine regions around the world that get 50, 60, and even more rain. Most of those places are focused on winter rain, though. The same is pretty true here, but you compare this to a lot of fine wine regions that get very little in the summer. These are getting Champagne over 2 inches a month in the summer. R is getting 3 inches. Beaune is getting right around 2 inches. So all of them are fairly moist in the summer. And I love that Beaune is 53% cloud in the summer. That doesn't sound like my summer vacation. All right, unless the wine is included. All right, so we're looking at France, just giving the overview. I haven't talked about this before, but where is Pinot from? We do a world grape series. We do the dark side of Pinot, 6 glasses of Pinot Noir around the world, very much like WOPN does. And we talk about the origins of the grape, possibly a wild vine, but definitely before the Romans. But there's also a possibility it is related to a grape called Savigny, not Sauvignon Blanc, but Savigny from the Jura region of France. And if you look at that map, Burgundy is sort of in the center of it, and Jura is just to the right of it, barely, just to the east of it in the foothills of the Alps. So Pinot Noir, we can call it a Burgundian grape because it grew up near Burgundy at least. But so many mutations, clones, crossings. Chardonnay, after all, is a crossing of Pinot Noir. Pinot Blanc is a mutation, an albino, if you will, lots of other things. Now, I said it's in Burgundy, and I certainly said it's in Jura. If we'll back to the last one for just a moment, also showing that it's in Alsace, it's in Champagne, it's in the Languedoc, and the surprise there is probably that it's on Corsica, the island of Corsica. But we'll leave that alone and go to Champagne. Already said, coldest, wettest fine wine region of France, Méthode traditionnelle, second fermentation in the bottle, and Pinot Noir is the most widely planted grape. Surprising to many people that more than 70% of the acreage of Champagne is red grapes when they don't make any red wine. Except that's the first lie I tell many people about Champagne, because they do make red wine. It's just not called Champagne. So they make a rosé under the appellation Rosé de Ricis, and they make white and reds without bubbles under the appellation of Coteau Champenois. Regine and Josh, have you guys had much Coteau Champenois or Rosé de Ricis?
I personally have not, even when visiting Champagne, I have not. Josh, have you?
Coteau Champenois wines, my tooth enamel is still recovering. The acidity in those is, I really only have one other experience comparative to that, where it was a gauntlet of a bunch of really high acid whites in Alto Adige. But yeah, Coteau Champenois wines are just almost, you know, what's the German term where you want to self-inflict pain? Schadenfreude, is that what it is? Okay. Like they're just wickedly high acid.
And I got to say, for the reds, my first time experiencing them was in a Wine Scholar Guild program, Champagne Master. And so everything gets into that. But if you want to pay, you know, $80, $90 retail for a really thin, insipid Pinot Noir, that's your place to go. So
I do have to say, whoops, sorry, Regine.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, the one sparkling wine known area that I've stumbled on dry wines that have been really good has actually been England and British bubbles. And then the couple of dry wines that I've had from there have been really impressive.
Cool. Agreed with you, Josh. I'm just curious, are they exporting a lot of the still reds to the US? Okay.
Yeah, you gotta really hunt them down. Yeah, I mean, they're slightly easier to get than Doux Champagne, the ultra dessert suite.
Right.
I look for this stuff. There is 0 Doux Champagne in the US. So the others,
You couldn't.
tiny.
Isn't Vouv white label Doux?
Oh, ouch. No, it's not.
Not yellow label, the white label, right? Don't they do a white label that's sweet?
I thought it was a demi-sec.
You might be right.
Yeah,
That's
I
what I
think
was asking because I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Who knows? Cool. Well, let's jump. I think we're getting ready for the first wine, if I remember. All right. Gonet-Medeville. It's so funny. I was just assuming this was a Broadbent selection, but it is not. But I love this wine, and hopefully you guys got it open. I'm doing it out of a Pinot Noir glass, so I can smell it, and it is a yeasty beast in my mind. It's delightful. What do you guys think about it?
Well, I tell you, I love the term yeasty beast. And I love that I need a t-shirt that says yeasty beast, but I love this because it's the kind of champagne that can hold up to like a rare steak, right? I'm loving that this is showing consumers or showing people a different style of champagne. Champagne is not just, for an aperitif. Like I want to try this even with like a grilled pork chop, right? This could hold up to a grilled pork chop. So I'm getting excited. I haven't had dinner, but that's where I'm thinking. It's gorgeous.
Oh, I'm right on the same page with you. With when you taste the wines and see what in your mind comes up for food, it ends up in a brutal cycle because you end up hungry at the end. But I definitely agree with you there. And David, what you were saying with a yeasty beast, you almost need a shirt that says yeasty beast mode. But it reminds me oddly of like potato chips, in a weird way. And I was, yeah, exactly. Not anything flavored or anything synthetic, but a real just kind of simple. I forget the brand that they do from like Spain. That's just olive oil and salt and like that kind of thing. It reminds me of that. But the texture on this is really nice as well. I was geeking out on the producer and their location and what all has gone into it as far as making the wine and where they're at in the Marne Valley, right? So they're in Vieilles, which I think is how you say that. I speak a little French, but still, when you throw all those vowels in there, it gets a little intimidating at points. But I guess, what's up?
Sounded beautiful. Yeah.
So I guess the fruit for this is primarily from Vieilles, which is in the what they call the Grand Valais of the Vallée de la Marne. So like a little bit east if you're looking straight down on Champagne. And it's an area that the reason they do really well with Pinot and Chardonnay is the soil ends up having more limestone creep up, right? Because Vallée de la Marne, we were talking earlier about Pinot Meunier, and it pops up there as you start heading back down the valley towards like Paris, and it's more clay and it's more of like a ravine. But this area is out more in the open, and they have more limestone, and so that's why Pinot works, and even Chardonnay. And so it's kind of like the other vineyard that they pull fruit from is Ambonnet, which is a Grand Cru in the Montagne de Reims. And it's kind of like a sister area to that, in that the Montagne de Reims is more of the mountain style Pinot Noir. And this, you get a little touch of the valley to it, but it's still got that elegance and that refinement. And I think you really see it in the wine. I was super excited to try it because I haven't had it recently. And it's the texture and the refinement, the fruit's tasty. Sorry, I geeked out on you for a minute there.
We loved it. I'm like what he said.
Yeah, and you had me flashing back to flashcards. Marne for Meunier. Okay.
Yep.
And it's beautiful, that's it's 100% Pinot Noir, and true to the name, Blanc de Noir, white of darks. Some people expect it to be rosé. It is not rosé at all. Lovely wine and extensive yeast aging. I don't remember what the text sheet said, if it was 2 years or 3 years. Long enough.
Yeah, you got it. 24 months.
Okay, so 2. Yeah,
I would be curious, and I couldn't find anything out on it as far as what they're doing to put the kind of faint rosé color to it. It's a very pale kind of pink color to it, and I couldn't find anything on exact vinification as far as, I wouldn't believe they're doing any kind of saignée, but I got to believe they're doing skin contact to some extent.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't looking at it very clearly. I do see that touch of blush there.
I noticed it more in the bubbles when I first poured it. It seems to dissipate once the bubbles or the froth on top disappears. But yeah, it was definitely a slight pink hue.
Mm-hmm.
We got to put out shirts because I've got the third shirt in the series. Yeasty Beastie Boy.
Oh, yes. Yes.
I like it. Tip of the cap.
All right.
We love it. That's awesome.
Printing that right now. Okay.
Well, and this wine appeals to the champagne hipsters out there too, right? With the low dosage, the 6 grams per liter.
Yeah, and it's, to Regine talking about it with beef, you talking about with potato chips. When you get into high acid, you can do anything, absolutely anything. I got to tell you, recently, just mushroom pizza, done.
Ooh.
Ooh,
Bottle of champagne, bye-bye.
yes.
Certainly fried chicken, but you had me thinking about steak tartare with some capers on it.
So, David, I will take your mushroom pizza and I'm going to raise you a truffled risotto. Right?
Yep.
I'm just going to enjoy wine and food while you guys duke it out. I'm good to just I'll be the referee.
What I like is a 3-hour class at dinner time and talking about food with every single wine and just having people run for the door when class ends. So
I like it.
Yes,
Do you want me to
sign me
do you,
up. I'll
do you want me
be
to
that
geek
class.
out a little more on the producer?
sure.
Is it okay? Because like I said, I was into this wine and I was reading about it, and Gonet-Medeville, the combination of the two names is a married couple, and the son is Xavier Gonet, and he is from the family Philippe Gonet, from Menil-sur-Oger. So they managed to get a little bit of fruit from Menil-sur-Oger through, I imagine, family ties through that champagne house. And then the wife is Julie Medeville, and she is from Bordeaux, in particular Sauternes, and has ties to several Bordeaux houses. But this is they got married and decided they wanted to stay. Somehow he got her away from Bordeaux, and they make really tasty champagne. And so they are located, as I said, in Vieilles, which is kind of right smack in the middle between the Montagne de Reims and below in the Côte de Blanc, in the heart of the Vallée de la Marne, very nearby to like the famed Philipponate Clos de Gouas and what's the other one? There's another really nice single vineyard wine there that I can't remember at this point, but really cool backstory to this wine. And I think the pedigree is showing through. So I was excited about it, if you couldn't tell.
Nice. And for those in the trade, it's imported by Martin's Wines, just for giggles. Well, let's go to the next wine. That's definitely the next region, I'm going to say. I think. All right. So to Germany, our wine 2 in the flight. So looking at Germany overall, first of all, Pinot Noir is usually on the label as Spätburgunder, and that is the case this time. Spätburgunder on the label. Sometimes they will put Pinot Noir, sometimes they'll put both. Increasingly important there due to climate change. That is for sure. And I got to say, the last time I was in the Mosel, a producer poured me their Syrah. That's how much climate is changing there. So definitely getting warmer and warmer. And they've gone from wimpy Pinot Noir to substantial Pinot Noirs. And oak has not been very common. There are more and more bottlings that they're getting it ripe enough to do some barrel aging. Predominant regions for Pinot: Baden, Ahr, Rheinhessen, and portions of Rheingau, particularly around the village of Asmenhausen. Württemberg, it's often in rosés. And a lot of this makes sense because if you look at Germany, it's clustered in the southwest corner of the country, so the warmest portion. Baden, down at the bottom, Pfalz, Rheinhessen, Württemberg, those all make sense. But Ahr is one of the northernmost portions of Germany, one of the northernmost, wine appellations of Germany. So they shouldn't be able to get any grapes ripe, let alone red grapes. So what would the memory aid be for why they grow Pinot Noir in the R? Or how do you say that?
What's a pirate's favorite grape?
Arr.
Pinot Noir from the R. Oh, and there's your pirate wine key.
Arr. Okay, yeah. So silly things. Why do they get grapes ripe in the north? Arr. Okay, so let's give the answer to that. All right, so on to the next slide. So Pinot Noir, very, very small valley, one of the smallest wine regions in Germany. The only regions north of this for wine are in the former East Germany, Saarlandstraat and Sachsen. And then everything north of that is just beer. Okay, that's what they're doing up there. But the R, 82% of the wine produced is red wine and 65% of the acreage is Pinot Noir. So small production, but worth paying attention to. And if we go to the next slide, this sort of explains it. So it's really a steep sheltered valley that creates a greenhouse effect, trapping the heat. I like to simplify wine to the point that I oversimplify it, looking at latitude and longitude, proximity to rivers, but sometimes the twists and turns and changes in elevation and exposure can create mesoclimates and microclimates that make places surprisingly cold or surprisingly hot. This is one of those places that just the heat gets trapped here. And let's see. Beautiful.
You don't want to trip and stumble there.
No. We've got to tie on. And if we can go to the next slide as well. Here we go. We got the tech sheet on this, and I'm not dumping my bubbles, sorry. But our Julia Bertram Spätburgunder Handwerk, oh, lovely name, from the R, screw cap, because that's globally more and more important. And now I need my pivot system. Okay, I need my Coravin pivot. Or Peter, what do you think? Do you think the Coravin pivot or using the screw cap with the permeable membrane that you guys launched, do you think, does pivot replace that, those special tops?
Well, the screw cap adapter that you mentioned, held here in my hand, is good for about 6 or 7 months of storage, where the pivot, because you open it up and pop it in, it seems to go about 30 days. It's just not as tight as this one would be.
Well, and I can attest to the screw cap top because I definitely, in pursuing blind tasting with the MS, used that and appreciated having access to that, because you use the Coravin for normal bottles that have corks, but what did you do with screw cap wines? And there's a lot of screw cap wines that you need to have access to and need to taste. And so I saw that, I can't remember where I saw it, but it was still kind of new, and I jumped on it and had really great success with it. So I appreciate your guys' pursuit of technology, because it saved me a lot of money in terms of having to buy fewer bottles of certain screw cap wines. And so I can attest to the fact that it works as long as you don't disturb the wine and there's a decent amount left for a long time.
We love German Rieslings at Coravin, and there's a lot of them, really nice bottles finished under screw cap, and we were not able to enjoy those by the glass. And that was Greg's motivation for creating this product here.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I don't know if Regine, Josh, Peter, if you guys have the Julia Bertram Handwerk in hand. But this is a case where I'm pleased to not have the winemaker on the panel, because I wish I'd decanted this Pinot an hour ago.
I was about to say, you probably don't want to Coravin this one. You want to run it through almost like a blender.
Yeah. A Venturi aeration funnel, dump it in a milk jug, back and forth. This needs some air. Just pretty reductive. I'm going to say it's got pretty heavy cabbagey type smell, but I haven't tasted yet.
What?
Barnyard.
And I know that they talk about Spätburgunder from the R being this unique combination of slate and Pinot Noir, and that it makes for a wine that often has a smoky character. But I agree with you. I don't think there's any writing this off. I think this is some reduction that needs to blow off, and maybe that smoky, because her wines are supposed to be pretty delicate and ethereal, and she's pretty hands off in terms of her winemaking. But yeah, it's I saw you swirling, and I was like, yep, I'm in the same boat, because I've been trying to swirl this glass the whole time. How's your showing, Regine?
I agree with the both of you. My first reaction is this is what I call my a James Brown wine, a lot of funk to it. But you know what? After a while, the music grows on you. So I'm just going to let it sit there until it grows on me.
Well, it's really pretty on the palate.
Yeah.
So James Brown knew how to handle this wine, because I do believe there's some lyrics. It's too funky in here. Give me some air.
Yes. David, I think I love you. That's great.
Sorry, happen to have that album. So yes, LP, actually a single. All right, never mind. But no, I agree. There's lovely wine under there waiting to come out. I am enjoying it on the palate, as Regine said. On the palate, there's much more to it.
Well, yeah, it's interesting. I'd be curious on this to actually get the winemaker's opinion, or even your opinion, David, or Regine as well, if you have experience with Spätburgunder from the R. But her style, once again, reading that up and geeking out on it a little bit, she loves how wines age, and she tries to make her wine with ability to age. So is this something where she would look at it and be like, well, you know what, it's almost too young, it needs to take time to come together, especially with being under screw cap? But yet this is her entry level, right? This is the handwork Spätburgunder. It's not one of her single vineyards. And so that's just a couple of the questions that came up with me when I was looking at this wine, because the R has come so far, right? Who was it? Was it Parker who called the wines out and called them terrible and actually described them as abortive for Pinot Noir, like rosé? Yeah.
Wow.
Way back when, and said that, and it was like way to just throw a region under the bus. So I'm glad to see. I mean, this has really beautiful depth and richness of flavor, and minus the reduction that will blow off. It's a really pretty wine.
Yeah, and I think there's some really beautiful, like bright fruit coming through as it opens up. And I love to think about food and wine because I like to eat and drink, and I think that there's a lot you can do with this wine, right? There's this is BLT. I'm always looking for something to pair with a BLT. I'm thinking like a eggplant sandwich would be kind of really interesting with this, with a nice mayo-based sauce. So I think once it blows off, there's some beautiful fruit and there's some beautiful floral notes, and it'll be fun tomorrow. I'll have it for dinner tomorrow.
When you said eggplant, it made me think of like smoky vegetarian style dishes, and I think like some pita bread and baba ganoush.
Yeah,
might be fun.
Yeah, now you're speaking my language. Come on, Josh.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's open. I think this is dinner the next 2 nights. So yeah.
Well, and if anybody gets the chance, go to their website, because some of the views of some of the vineyards in the R are insanely stunning. The steepness, you get the slide, I think it was one back from the tech sheet, you get kind of a glimpse of it there, but it looks like what they did was go up either with a drone or with a really high quality camera, and you get to see the really steep nature of it. I was shocked. I wanted to make them my background on some of my computers because they were so beautiful. I geek out on vineyard photos when they're really well done, and that was I enjoyed that part of it. It makes me want to go visit the R.
I found a great story, and I should have written down which publication, about her background and the vineyard. The family bought a plot of land in 1910, and I think she's the 4th generation maybe winemaker. So it's a really beautiful family story.
Nice. And I like that she bought her barrels from Meyer Nakel, because they're sort of the benchmark producer from there. That's good fun. Cool.
Yeah, they put that region on the map, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and those wines are imported by Schatzi Wines, if anyone is interested. So cool. And let's move on to the next slide, the next wine. How are we doing on time? We're beautiful. Grapes. I think those are Julia Bertram's hands. Okay, so that looked like a shot I saw on the website. All right, so going to Burgundy, we've got such a stretch going from Chablis down to Lyon. From memory, I think that's about 140 miles in total. In the top portion, the Côte d'Or, Slopes of Gold, and I mentioned that was providing a slight weather break from both the Atlantic and the English Channel. But the two halves of the Côte d'Or, the Côte de Nuit and the Côte de Beaune, simplifying wine, I like to say Nuit in the north, Beaune below it. Nuit, the wines are mostly red, dark as night, Nuit, and the Côte de Beaune, bone white. But that's not completely accurate because the Côte de Beaune actually makes more red, just not as much more as the Côte de Nuit. And the Chalonnais, a mostly red region, but Chablis and Mâcon to the far north and far south are mostly, almost entirely white wine. So here we're in the Côte de Beaune, and let's go to the next slide on that. 17 miles long, east-facing vineyards off of the slopes. And we get to, the wine capital of Burgundy, the city of Beaune. It's the only, Beaune and Dijon are really the only cities of any size in Burgundy, mostly very small villages. And then just outside of Beaune is the appellation Savigny-les-Beaune, actually quite a bit south of there, but no, I'm sorry. I'm messing up on the map there. I am not spotting it on the map at the moment. That's all right. Ignore me. But in Savigny-les-Beaune, great village level wines, but then also 22 Premier Crus. And here there are no Grand Crus. There aren't any Grand Crus in Beaune itself or Chory-les-Beaune either, the other satellites of, if you will, of the city of Beaune. But this is not a Premier Cru, but is labeled Vieilles on the label, or old vines. But even France has not regulated how old is old. So let's jump into talking about this. The vineyards of Domaine Vincent Ledy, and they were difficult to get information on. It is a relatively new producer and very, very small production, imported by Martin's Wines, but so little, I guess, that it's not in their catalog at the moment. But yeah, this is it, the Savigny-les-Beaune. VV is just my shorthand for Vieilles. So yeah, created the label in 2006. And it's only got about 2 hectares. And if I'm remembering correctly, 2 hectares would be about 3.5 acres. Sorry, that's super top of the head. It's small in any event. 6 different wines, all of them red. He's only doing Pinot Noir at this time. And the article I read on him basically said he has a fear of oak. He does not allow any new oak in. He buys used barrels, barrels that have been used for at least 4 wines prior. So not fully neutral. I guess most people would say 7 uses makes it fully neutral. But let's taste it.
So I'll start. Really enjoying this wine. I like the juiciness of it. I'm really enjoying like this combination of juicy fruit and herbalness. I was trying to pick up something on the nose. It's licorice, it's floral, it's really pretty perfume, purple flowers. But I can tell that this wine is going to develop. But right now, it's tasting pretty good. I think it's going to really open up and develop, but I'm liking this wine. What do you think, Joshua?
I would agree with you. I think it's, I'm enjoying 17 and 18, the vintages in particular, I've been enjoying lately because, one, I can't afford really necessarily to drink super high-end Burgundy. So some of the like Bourgogne Rouge.
Amen, my brother. Amen.
Yeah, and so the accessibility and the upfront like freshness and brightness of 17 and 18 in particular have been really enjoyable. And so producers simpler wines like Bourgogne Rouge, or in this case, actually, you know, Vieilles, Savigny-les-Beaune, have a nice approachability to them and a real brightness. And so I agree with you. It smells as delicious as it tastes, and it brings you back for more. And you've already got me thinking about what food I want with it. It's a really pretty wine. It remains to be seen whether it'll hold up for the long haul of 10, 15 years or so. But right now I'm perfectly happy with the way it's shown. It's really brings me back to the glass constantly to sip again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think 17 is showing really well. There's just a little bit of bitterness on the palate, I noticed, but it's refreshing. I'm enjoying it. And I think this wine's very pretty.
Yeah, definitely bringing sexy back. It's got, concentration of fruit. It's not wimpy by any stretch. It's got acid, it's got tannin, but everything is really nicely proportioned, balanced with each other, and really pretty seamless. It's showing, I agree, it's showing great young. I do think it has the structure to age a little bit. But I don't know if that I'd have the patience to age it. I can't remember what the retail price on this is, but please be under $60. Please.
I'm looking, I don't see it.
It depends if they got it before or after the tariffs, or if somehow it came in the last few weeks or so. David, I think I remember I read the same article you did. The plots, if I remember reading it, in Savigny-les-Beaune were planted in, I think, the 30s and the 50s for this. And there are two different plots that are just below a premier cru called Les Labières. One of the plots has a good mix of that clay and limestone that you like, and then the other one is more clay heavy. But that's what I remember, at least from when I was reading about it. And you're dead on with the wood thing. It sounds like he's a little bit of a very strong opinion with oak, because it was saying he only buys them from one winery that he used to work at because he knows how particular they are, that you don't get bacteria or anything with that in the wood. And I'm sure if there's any winemakers on here, they can attest to that. I know I was talking or in the chats with Kobe. I bet you got to be real particular in terms of using of what people deem neutral oak and how well they take care of their barrels if you're buying from other people.
Yeah.
So food, I have to take it back to food. I'm thinking something like just a really roasted chicken with a lot of herbs. For me, I would be happy with this. And I think I make the best roasted chicken in the world. So I'm telling, this might be my dinner tomorrow night, or maybe tonight. It's late now. Yeah, roasted chicken with this, that would be delicious.
What time should we be there?
I was about to say.
I was hoping you'd say that. Bring the wine. Come on over.
Roast chicken is something that is.
What would you serve with this, David?
Yeah, I like your idea, and touching on the bitterness that Peter mentioned. It's that classic, Burgundian Pinot Noir, and frankly, the better New World Pinot Noirs. I always get hints of black tea. This has a little of that smokiness to it. That, tea smoked duck. That would be awesome to me. Just playing off that smokiness a little bit. But lovely. I'm down for roast chicken with herbs.
Oh, anytime roast chicken with herbs.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan of Burgundy when it has that kind of you were talking about, Regine, the spicy aspect to it, the licoricey tones, and then some of the earthiness. I still think it's pretty primary, right? But I'm a fan of it with various types of sushi, and more in the roll camp, where you've got the rice aspect, you may have a tempura aspect. You don't just have, like, I love Chablis or Riesling with like the sashimi type stuff where it's pure, unadulterated, beautiful fish. But when you start incorporating rolls, hand rolls, edamame, things like that over a course of a whole meal in that capacity, Burgundy for me is always a fun thing to go to in terms of trying to have a red wine with a cuisine that often lends itself to white wines more.
Josh, yes. And I'm thinking eel.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh my goodness, like that would be fantastic.
Well, that's kind of a fun textural play too.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. I like that.
I think we all need to get together for dinner.
I was about to say, let's start with sushi and we'll finish with your roast chicken, because
There we go.
we've already, I think, had a person call for the recipe. They're
Yes.
hoping you'll share it.
I would tell you, but I'd have to kill you.
Denied. Hey guys, there's a question just about Pinot in general, of what Europeans seek and like to drink, versus us and those in Asia. There's sort of a different palate or different Pinots that they're going for.
I don't have an
I was
answer.
gonna say, David,
to
you want to
that.
start?
I figure
I'm
it's all
happy
of them, right?
I'm happy to give you what my 2 cents, but I mean, I think it's in Europe. I was lucky enough to live in Burgundy for a year. A lot of times your palate is influenced by where you're located. So like I lived in the south of Burgundy in a really small town, like really small. Like the most it was known for was this metal press that came out during the Industrial Revolution, and it was in a roundabout in the middle of town. Like that's all they had for touristy stuff. That's it. And so you go to the wine shop there, and their knowledge of wines of the world are the various communes of Burgundy, and maybe some Beaujolais and some Champagne and a little bit of Bordeaux. But you talk to them about Italian wines and they're like, oh, I don't drink sweet wines. And it's like, what? Huh?
What?
Like that was a literal conversation I had with somebody there who was very in tune with Burgundy. And so sometimes my experience with European palates, and this is more localized to where I was very localized to what they experienced in that area. So obviously they loved Pinot Noir, but they loved it in an earthier style and more elegant. I brought a Pinot Noir, one from a producer that we all know, to a blind tasting there, and put it in the blind tasting, and they were blown away at the ripeness as they talked about it. Because when you bring even elegant Central Coast Pinot Noir and put it next to Burgundy when it's a cold Burgundian day, it shocks them. And these are people who had never seen a California Pinot, and so I think they err more into that side of earth and mineral and acid, as opposed to sometimes you can get onto the fruitier side with New World wines. And Regine, I apologize, I interrupted you.
No, I don't think I had a comment.
Oh, gotcha.
And if I did, I forgot it because I'm drinking the wine.
But so Regine, I think I read that in your bio that you went to school not far from Burgundy.
I did. Wow, you dug deep. Yes, I lived in a town called Besançon. I was supposed to be there for 3 months, but I stayed a year. Yes, but I was a baby. I knew nothing about wine back then.
All right. Well, I was just stumped, when the question was asked. I'm just frozen because I am very cautious to paint broad strokes when it comes to consumer preferences, because we can look at the United States varying by geography, varying by social structure, so many things everywhere around the world. I keep reading stereotypes of what kinds of wines people like, and I find that they are inaccurate most of the time. So one thing, I've just listened to an audiobook called Wine Wars, and the author is talking about how Chinese put Coke in their wine. I lived in China for a year, managing a restaurant on the floor 6 days a week. I never saw that happen. And I certainly know plenty of Chinese who prefer tannic, dry Bordeaux red wines. So I can't paint a picture of what a typical American even drinks, because if you look at sommeliers compared to entry-level consumers in the Midwest, totally different profile. So I really don't have a good answer for that. And that silenced the crowd.
I sent you a message saying amen.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I got angry at that audiobook, actually. Oh, I'm supposed to talk about me now. So This slide reminds me what I'm doing because I'm into the wine. So San Francisco Wine School, just our quick commercial plug, founded the school in 2011 after I left the school that I created for someone else, a sommelier school that I ran for 5 years, and I left when they were purchased. I thought there was a better way. Basically, instead of just focusing on sommeliers, all relevant credentials under one roof, we started out training the trade, restaurant and hospitality trade. We've expanded to bring in many consumer and even collector events. We now have 18 different credential programs, but we do, lots of things, trade and corporate and social private events, online, in person, on a boat, on a space shuttle. We don't care. If it's beverage and legal and we can find a way to get there, we'll do it. We are now shipping 2-ounce bottles to 43 different states, so that our programs went from mostly in person to almost entirely online. And our next step is creating hybrid classes where we have online and in-person audiences at the same time. Check out our public events page, check out our classes, check us out, sfwineschool.com.
Excellent. Thank you so much, David. And I can't wait to take the wine tasting on a spaceship. That sounds awesome. With that, are there any additional questions that are out there?
Sorry to interrupt, Stacy. I think I just saw an article that they just brought some wine back from 14 months on the space station, the International Space Station, and they didn't reveal what it was until recently, and it happened to be Chateau Petrus.
Nice.
Just nuts. That's a very pricey investment to send up to space for 14 months, but they're going to analyze it and I guess see how it compares to something that was aged on the surface of Earth, which is crazy.
That is crazy, but I look forward to seeing that in our lifetime. That's fantastic.
Let's hope it wasn't a fake.
If it was 82, it probably was.
I just finished watching that movie again. What was the name of that movie about all the fake wines?
Sour grapes?
Yes, sour grapes. That's it.
I got a recommended friend on Facebook, Rudy Kerniwan, is that, I believe, seriously popped up on Facebook, recommended to me.
Well, he's out of jail in the US, right? And he's extradited elsewhere.
I don't know.
There was a question I saw pop up, and I'd be curious to get your guys' take on this as well, because I always like to hear this. What are up and coming regions for Pinot Noir that you're thinking of? Any place you've had Pinot Noir lately that's been like, whoa?
Well, this is not up and coming. I have to look at the producer, but a friend of mine who's a wine buyer forced me to try a bottle. And I say forced me because I just didn't want to taste it. And he said, no, you have to taste it. A Pinot Noir from the Languedoc. And I was blown away, especially because this was under $25. So it's not a new area, but this is probably the best that I personally tasted. That might not be saying much, but I was blown away by how good this wine was. I'll find the producer because I can't remember right now.
I'll go because
okay.
I'll let David off the hook. For me, I would say one that's blown me away is from Chile, but it's not from the normal areas you'd think in Chile. When you're on the coast, whether you're seeing Sauvignon Blanc in like Casablanca Valley and whatnot, it's from up north in an area called Limarí, where more of the grapes were grown for pisco production, but they have limestone and it's influenced by the ocean in what capacity that they can. But I was blown away at the freshness and brightness, and much like what you were talking about, Regine, with the under $25, same thing. And I was like, holy cow, you don't find Pinot Noir under $25 too much. That's just this bright and fresh and delicious. And like, just give me a straw and throw it in the bottle.
Yes.
So that was really exciting to see. Because I think for me, it was bar none the best Chilean Pinot I've had, independent of price. And so that was cool to see.
Yeah. Biggest surprise for me recently was actually at World of Pinot last year. I hadn't had it. Laura Catena's new project in Mendoza So I've had stunning Pinot Noir from Patagonia, from Rio Negro, but I'd never had Pinot Noir from Mendoza and wouldn't have thought it was possible. So anyone chime in? I think Domaine Nico, or
Yeah,
I thought there was a different name. That's right.
that's
Okay.
that I believe correct, because the label is very stark, and I can picture the label with like one short word on the front of it. And I believe Domaine Nico sounds about right.
So I was really impressed with that. But, you know, Patagonia in general, some good stuff. It's just not a lot of availability. I mean, Bodega Chakra, I can't afford their top label, though I've had it once, but their entry-level wine, Barda, is fun. And someone chimed in Arroyo Grande. Yes, of course, Arroyo Grande. But I think we know that one. But there are two AVAs that are pending in California that I think are worth paying attention to. So look out for San Luis Obispo Coast when that AVA is approved. Also looking for Gabilan Mountains AVA when that one is approved. They're both approved as perfected. We're waiting for the final say, but the public comment portion is over.
Oh, very cool. I've had some good ones from the Finger Lake, keeping it domestic in the US, the Finger Lakes as well. So it's worth checking out the Finger Lakes.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
it's producer variant. So there's
Sure.
there's a couple producers to search out who apparently have good sites and know what they're doing. But yeah, really tasty stuff, and very can be Burgundian, or can almost be kind of like this Savigny-les-Beaune, where it has a little more fruit up front. I was impressed. So Finger Lakes is worth checking out too.
Oh, I definitely will. I meant to say I have not tried any, not that I haven't had any good ones. So I will try that.
I own a few from the Finger Lakes, and it is a variant depending upon the vintage. So it is important to test the vintages first, but I've had some wonderful wines out of the Finger Lakes. And to bring it also back to America and to California, I love the Pinot Noirs coming out of Lompoc and the ghetto there. And what Raj Parr and the folks at Domaine de la Côte. And speaking of the San Luis Obispo coast, he has a new project that he's working on up in Cambria, where he's on a farm out there. And I can't wait to test the wines coming off of that property.
Sorry, Raj is doing that?
Yeah, Raj has a new piece of property up in Cambria, San Luis Obispo coast, not far from the coast, that he's doing some wines off of there.
I want to be Raj Parr when I grow up.
Don't we all?
Okay. Actually, I'm going to throw one more place out there. Expensive, but Okanagan Valley. So if you get your hands on some BC Pinot, fun stuff.
Excellent. You guys, this is so fun. My goodness, we could play. I think this conversation could continue all night, but I do want to turn our attention to our silent auction. For those of you who are with us, you've probably heard us talking a little bit about the silent auction. It is the final week. So we are into the final several days. These auction lots will actually time out Sunday night at midnight. A couple of key ones, though, that really are applicable to tonight's discussion. We've been talking about the world of Pinot Noir. We've dug into our cellar at World of Pinot and put together a library case of wine and partnered with our sponsor, United Airlines, for 2 round-trip domestic tickets. It right now is a steal. So go on, take a look at that silent auction item. You are all going to be traveling soon enough, so go ahead and pre-purchase those flights and be able to give a little bit to the World of Pinot's mission, which is education for us. So take a look. That's lot number 421. Moving on to lot number 429, thanks to our generous donation from Corvin, we have a pivot system that we've packaged with a 4-pack of Pinot Noir from our Rock Stars seminar. So if you missed the Rock Stars seminar, that was really the first Thursday of this month. This is an awesome opportunity. And again, this is a steal right now. So you will get a not only the Corvin pivot, but you'll get a bottle of Chev, Rohr, Bergstrom, and Pizzoni with that. So take a look at that. And then because we've recorded all these sessions, you can actually go back and watch the session again and open the wines with your Corvin. I don't know, kind of sounds fun to me. And then lot number 430 is again another Corvin pivot system that is partnered and paired with a 6-pack or 6 bottles of wine from the Santa Lucia Highlands. Again, these are featured from the second Thursday seminar, thanks to our folks at the Santa Lucia Highlands. Another opportunity to add to your cellar, open up these wines with Corvin, and then go back to the library of content that we now have at worldofpinotnoir.com. So again, silent auction will time out Sunday at midnight. There are some great deals on there. So fun gift ideas, cellar collections, please take a look at our website and go to the silent auction. But I kind of think it might be giveaway time. I don't know. I'm kind of,
we have 2 winners.
itching for some excitement around the Corvin.
Excellent. Well, for those people who stuck around and watched the entire show, we have 2 lucky winners of a Corvin pivot system. It's going to be Gary Clayton and Robin Weisberger.
Woo! Thank you, Gary and Robin.
We'll get your guys' addresses and get those shipped out in the next day or so.
That's pretty
That
awesome.
is awesome. All right, and thank you so much, Peter, for that generous donation. That is just really, really great news. And this officially rounds out our WOPN Wine Wednesday with the Somm kit. I want to thank Josh, Regine. You guys are just, what a really fun way to kind of bring this all together tonight. And Josh, I know you had a lot of insights on putting and curating this selection of wines. So thank you so much for your feedback on that. So appreciate your guys' time. Thank you so much. David, I feel like I might miss you next Wednesday. I don't know. Do you have any final remarks you want to give before we close out tonight?
I'm available next Wednesday, I think. Anyway. No, it's been a lot of fun. Definitely always fun working with you guys, and the wines throughout the entire case were great. And looking forward to next year in person. But I think this was not a shabby substitute for in person. I think you guys did an amazing job putting together between the auction, the case, the weekly seminars, and all the other webinars you put in. I'm thrilled to be part of it and look forward to next year.
Awesome. Well, thank you, David, so much. A huge, huge shout out to you. We could not do what we do without your support. Thank you. As we look to gather in the future, we still have one more week of WOPN Wine Month happening. Take a look at our website. You'll find us live on Instagram, live on Facebook. We've got a couple more seminars still in the queue. So if you haven't gotten enough Pinot this month, you've still got one more week to go. I want to thank everyone so much for your time. And I also just wanted to add in on the fact that tomorrow night is the Bien Nacido. Thank you, Kobe, for that reminder. And you can actually join that without even buying the wine. So there's still an opportunity to join the discussion if you would like to learn more about the Bien Nacido vineyard there in the Santa Maria Valley on the Central Coast. And last but not least, some of you have been saying, gosh, I hope these kinds of things continue. I actually have a board of directors meeting tomorrow morning, and I'll be sharing your feedback with them. So thank you all so much. Enjoy the rest of your wines. Have a great night and an awesome rest of the week. We'll talk soon.
Cheers.